It's now my pleasure to introduce Patricia Espinosa. Unfortunately, it's virtually, but for those of you who are not familiar with Ms. Espinosa, she has been serving as the Executive Secretary of the United Nations Framework on Climate Change since 2016. Her leadership has been pivotal in making a difference internationally. She's worked on throughout her career on addressing many of these critical issues, and we're hoping that she continues to provide that leadership. But over her 30 years in service, she's been working at the highest levels in international relations with a specific specialization in climate change, global governance, sustainable development, gender equality, and protection of human rights. She's really helped lead the world, at Paris, last year at Glasgow, and moving forward from here. So without further ado, comments from Patricia Espinosa.
Excellencies, dear friends, it's a pleasure to address you today, and thank you for all of your work and support over the last few years as our relationship has grown. We are nearing the halfway point in a year that has seen more than its share of challenge and change. It comes on the heels of a global pandemic that altered economies and changed our lives, and it's far from over. It is easy to get lost in the day-to-day when the world lurches from crisis to crisis. Yet, we cannot solely focus on the immediate. We must be equally cognizant of and rapidly act upon the existential and all-encompassing threat of climate change. Frankly, and especially following the invasion of Ukraine, we're seeing signs of backsliding. Talk around a green recovery and building back better from COVID-19 has transformed into concern around energy prices and a disheartening desire by many to re-embrace fossil fuels. Nothing could be more harmful to our global climate change efforts, especially when we are so tantalizingly close to wider adoption of sustainable solutions in energy, transportation, and several other areas. We need to reduce emissions now, adapt to climate change impacts now, and boost climate action in all governments and in all sectors now. If we continue our current trajectory, global temperature will rise more than 3 degrees by the end of this century, putting the future of humanity in doubt. Climate change is a grave threat to life as we know it. Another path is possible. Global leaders have an opportunity at this crucial moment to guide the transformation to a more sustainable, resilient, and healthier future for all. A future where we are not bound by fossil fuels, but one in which clean energy options open doors to greater independence, freedom, and economic opportunity for all nations. Business as usual is not our only option. We can and must forge a new path. Many different elements must come together to achieve this. One is significantly scaling up green investments for the deployment of clean energy solutions. Most recently, at COP26, nations themselves called for rapidly scaling up the deployment of clean power generation and for phasing down unabated coal power and phasing out inefficient fossil fuel subsidies. They did not call for this if it's convenient. It will never be easy to make the transformation at the scale and speed we need. The perfect scenario does not exist. Hard work is inevitable, as are hard choices. But make them we must, even in the most difficult of circumstances. We need climate action in almost every area: innovation, technology development and deployment, finance, policy and program implementation, jurisdictional alignment, just to name a few. What we need, however, are concrete plans to implement the agreement at the domestic level to support this action. We need those formalized in more ambitious national climate action plans, long-term climate plans, and ongoing commitments to drive even more climate action. Establishing the most effective economic instruments to support this work are crucial. The good news is that carbon markets and carbon pricing schemes continue to grow globally, and the Americas are no exception. We see some current markets expanding, as well as new subnational jurisdictions joining existing markets. The robust growth in voluntary carbon markets, which is strongly driven by corporate pledges to reach carbon neutrality, is another encouraging signal. What we must also see, however, is for plans to achieve carbon neutrality tomorrow transformed into tangible actions today. It's crucial to establish long-term plans for 2050. But if we don't have solutions already implemented by the end of this decade, only 8 years from now, we can forget about 2050. It will be far too late. Given the complexity of political processes and the reality of business cycles, if we want solutions implemented by the end of the decade, we must see ambitious climate action in the public and private process within the next 2 years. And to achieve that, work must begin today. Ladies and gentlemen, this is your first session following the adoption of decisions on Article 6 during COP26 in Glasgow, a decision that had a long and often contentious road. Its adoption represents a major accomplishment. It also has ramifications for how parties cooperate with respect to driving climate action, namely by setting common rules for all. The benefits, however, extend beyond playing by the same rulebook, as they have the power to unleash market forces for greater and more cooperative climate action. Such action can include, for example, greater cooperation within a specific region, but it may also be in the form of cooperation with other more distant jurisdictions. We look forward to seeing how jurisdictions, but also various stakeholders, will make use of this new opportunity to learn from each other. The bottom line is that Article 6, as well as the other accomplishments of COP26, represent an opening of a new phase in climate discussions. We are now firmly in the implementation phase. Significant work remains also at the international level, where we have numerous areas which we must address on the road to COP27. This includes work on mitigation, on adaptation, on loss and damage, on finance. We need to ensure the continued effort to meet the 100 billion goal. We need much stronger NDCs and long-term climate strategies by all nations. We need businesses to transform, to become more sustainable. We need people to re-examine how they consume, to make choices resulting in a more resilient planet. We need to redouble efforts now. All governments, all actors across all sectors must urgently build on what was achieved in Glasgow in order to achieve progress at COP27. All of this is difficult. especially this year. But Glasgow reinforced the importance and the potential of multilateralism. I want to again thank you for your support over the last few years, and I look forward to strengthening our relationship together. We may face the existential challenge of climate change together, but never have I been more convinced that humanity has the skills, knowledge, and the tools to address it. We know we are always stronger if we work collaboratively, and your work continues to reflect the reality of that statement. Thank you.